Okay, welcome back. Just get right into it. We're gonna do episode 4. Make sure my mic's working. Okay, mic's on and go.
Hello, I'm Malcolm Bendall, and I'm here to present section 4 of our 15-part series on the technology related to MSAT plasmoids and plasmoids. This section specifically relates to plasmoids, which are generated in air and over metal, which creates a net positive charge, which is more active and aggressive than the net negative charge, which is generated by imploding bubbles in water, which is the MSAT plasmoids. So we'll be dealing with plasmoid Vajra in ancient history. So we'll be going through the historical development through different cultures of the legend of the Vajra, which is an implosive device as opposite to our current explosive technologies, and that's why it appears that we lost it for a few thousand years, and now we've got it back again, and you'll see the first Vajra that has been built in modern times. So next slide, please. So in the ancient Sanskrit text, there's a recording of Indra, who was the god of thunder and lightning. Now we know that thunder and lightning are actually created from an ionized path that is first initiated by plasmoids escaping from the earth or from a body. So here you have in the hand the normal symbolism, because actually the Vajra is a device for generating plasmoids, and so I believe that this symbolism is to do with a lot more complex.
Symbolism, if you want it to be symbolism, it's kind of like the Bible. Like, it actually, what it says, if you can, decipher it through the layers, is actually a narrative. It's not symbolism. Sure, it has, that's how epic reality is, that it has symbolic, layers to it. But it's really not symbolism, and I am strongly of the mind this is not symbolism. Probably something even to do with the actual hand holding. Like, he's not accounting for the human body as a conduit. I don't know how it works, but I'm just saying it's not some symbolic thing where there's a device over here that's it's actually
Machine that we'll see later.
that's my thoughts.
Symbolize the fundamental workings of the Vajra. So the next slide. So here again is and you'll note there's always 4 elements on the end, and some of them, and they all hitting the center, which is basically in our technology that we've developed recently. We have speed positive, negative, and negative, so they're all firing into each other. Again, positive, negative, positive, negative. So this would be the firing point, and the plasmoid would be developed and come off this end. So, but as I said, it's and there's some subtleties here too. You'll see that the number 8 enshrined in this, and also there's usually a sphere in the middle, and that sphere normally has 4 other half spheres at 90 degrees to each other again, representing, symbolising the quadrature that you need to create. Initiate the creation of a plasmoid in air over metal, which is a positive plasmoid, which is basically very focused and highly energetic particle. So next, please. So again, the same symbolism and exactly the same operation. And also notice this as being a mirror plane. You know, so I view everything as mirror planes, you know, and you'll see that in sacred geometry, everything has 3 mirror planes, whether it's recognised or not. So, and this was given to Lord Indra when the planet was in imminent danger of destruction, and so it was, he went and asked for the most powerful weapon in the universe to defeat the demons who were trying to destroy the planet Earth. So, and that in that way he became the first avatar. So, anyway, so we can show you how his initial description and the recognition that it was the most powerful instrument in the universe, but it's good for the audience to recognise that it being recognised as the most powerful weapon in the universe to save the planet Earth, not to destroy it. It's actually to save others from destroying it. And as I've pointed out before, and you know, just in case anyone forgot, there's enough nuclear weapons in the world to destroy our planet several times over. So we already have that capacity. This initially, the initial history of it and the legends and mythology surrounding it are all about it being.
Makes me think of a couple videos ago where, not in these reactions, but in my own videos, which is Underground Science, like 211 maybe, Hopi Legends, that one, about how the person, the being Satu Paku or something, basically was saying that they stopped the flood, essentially, it sounded like. They basically said they stopped the process. So maybe the expansion of the Earth process had different weapons along the way that caused resonances that got out of hand, that required like a specific weapon to save the planet from it, like rattlesnake tailing apart, like literally breaking apart, but instead it stabilizes by like countering the energy somehow. I mean, that would be real interesting. I don't know anything around this. I find the curves of these to be probably utterly important and not just there arbitrarily for like artistic reasonings. But probably, like, if they're functional, like, if this is really a Vajra from ancient times that was made by someone who knew what they were doing, the ones that he's showing, or like one Elon Musk showed on his on his like nightstand. Like, if they're Vajras, maybe they each of their unique designs have influences of their own. And maybe there was one that had a specific influence. I was also thinking maybe like it needed cleaned almost, and like this is buildup that prevents energy flow.
Used for positive.
This is also oddly not rounded. I don't know if this one specifically is legitimately a Vajra. I mean, it probably is a pretty ancient one. Vajra. Authentic Vajras. Small Tibetan ritual. That's this one. So this has no association whatsoever with an actual, that's not an actual Vajra. It's just for sale on this website for 1234. Okay. I mean, it looks nice. Okay. Whatever, the real ones, actually. Like, this is probably artistic replication, like imitation, if you will, of the real ones that has lost understanding of why the nuances matter, and, like, because it looks artistic, like, from its origin, because the nuances matter, that the like subsequent knowledge of it falling off led to people just more so artistically designing them, and then they just didn't actually serve a function whatsoever. That's a thought I have, and also just a lack of understanding how to hold it, probably, and other things that I'm not sure what could play into influencing something of this nature, and like current passing through it. This is pretty much his current passing through in some way that's being encouraged by a user, presumably. Okay, let's carry on.
Rather than a destructive attack. So anyway, so we'll go on to the next bit in history where this is again some old examples of this, and you'll note these sort of spheres, or on the centre part, which would be the 0 point, and basically you can imagine a sphere.
I would love to know, like, that one looks like, if anything, like, that one's pretty ancient. The ones more recent look like maybe they're not as capturing all of this. Looks like it literally looks like it blew out its sides from use. That is incredible. Let's see if we can find it and see if it's also for sale for 1234. We'll do it this way. Cool rock. Cool rock, baby. That was from Reddit. Geology subreddit.
And that you've got again the sacred geometry, the mirror image again running in these planes. Yep. So, and that's important because basically the event horizon for the 0 point that this creates, that it's a 0 point that the plasmoid or MSAT plasmoid form around, and then that imploded sphere and the infinity symbol that creates basically is the geometry to create a self-contained, self-sustaining electromagnetic field, and that is a unique geometry to do that, which makes the plasmoid a atomic battery with its own casing, self-generated casing. So if we move on. So again, the same form, but this is showing the quadrature, and again you have the idea that again there's a central part, and then of course the mirror image planes, and the fact that this would be positive, this would be negative, and this would be positive, this would be negative. So you've got the concept of an implosion here, and you've got the concept here of the charge rolling off these shapes, which would be a...
I would disagree. It's probably an inlet and an inlet. Some one of these, like an inlet channel that collide whenever they make it in this cruciform form. If it's actually functional, would probably collide like this and then separate like this and create like a path this way and this way, creating some kind of like nucleus here at the heart of it, where it's like getting most compacted, most erect. Because like it's not probably not best to think in terms of positive, negative as much as direction of current flow, inlet, outlet, just where things are going, like accounting for their location, like they're somewhere, and then to go through this device, they must somehow go through this device. So they probably don't go through all of them. Although maybe I guess they could go through all of them and focus here, but that doesn't really make sense because then the energy would just concentrate here, and like as presumably you're holding it here. So if this were to work, it would probably have outlets and inlets, and because it's a cross, it really makes me think of like interacting magnetic fields that repel and that then produce the cross shape because of the repulsion. That's what it makes me think of, which then means there's two opposing and two flowing away at right angles. So this would then probably behave more like that, and not. He put positive, positive, negative, negative. I mean, obviously that's just. I think it's because he said positive, negative, and then just, well, positive, negative. Like you have to pick one, and at that point it's gonna be adjacent, so it doesn't really matter. But at the same time, it kind of matters. Like what is happening? Like it's not balanced. It's not really symmetrical if it's positive, positive, negative, negative. But if it's like inlet, inlet, outlet, outlet, and that's actually how fields interact. Like we can look at the Earth, no, the ocean currents. Just zoom in somewhere and find somewhere where they're literally colliding with one another. Like here. Here's a nucleus, an eddy, eddy, but then this collision point. This one's at an angle because of just the mechanics of it all. The nuances, the details of here. But if it's more exactly balanced, here's another one. That's kind of what I'm thinking here, though, where it's coming in, colliding with this one coming in, and then just separating and having two opposite flowing outlet currents for the currents. Like they must go somewhere. It's something of this nature. That's materially relevant, I guess, maybe, like in terms of like understanding what is happening with these. I don't know which ones are functional, which ones are just like imitational replications of people afterwards that didn't quite remember how to make them function.
You make a laser directed energy. So the next one. So basically, I built.
Let's see. Oldest Vajra in world. Rig Veda. Yes, but where is the oldest? Whoa, discovered. Whoa. Last year. Early centuries of Buddhism in northern Pakistan. Okay. Let's see what he has to say.
From those concepts of male and female and opposing spirals and vortices, this is actually the first polycarbonate model of the Vajra, and the the air actually comes from the outside in, which makes it an implosion rather than explosion. People may have seen fire tornadoes and bushfires or fire.
It's literally not the same. One of them has these little, like, fingers sticking to the sides. This is a spiral. That spirals into the center ball. So, like, the ball is the same-ish. And then everything else, though.
Tornadoes, sometimes for entertainment in shopping centres where they make an implosive wind, which is also what happens with a normal tornado on the ground, where it lifts cars and semi-trailers and tractors off the ground and lifts houses off the ground through the enormous force that's generated with implosion, which is a lot more effective and more energy efficient delivery of force.
I like how these numbers are. Like, it goes 1, although there's no 1 over here. But it goes, I guess that should be a 1. I don't know. 1 and then 2 and then the 2 here. So, like, this is like a kind of like a second overall triangle, third overall triangle. But part of it is this 4, which is the center of the 4. It's almost like this piece is missing and it's over a part of this third one, which reminds me of times when I've seen like triangular regions with like a corner filled in with mass. So maybe there's something to what he's doing here. I don't think it really relates to the Vajra. Makes me think of just like applying something cool for the sake of it being cool. But I just don't see how it relates to that device. Unless there's maybe 2 of these, like on the opposite side of this.
To an effect. Whereas if you use explosion, you have increasing friction as it goes out, whereas an implosion is decreasing friction as it's going in. And with this unique, if you imagine here that this is the sun in the middle, and you'll notice that also, and I'll show you something very subtle but something very real when I created this, is that I put the table tennis ball inside it, both to represent the fire tornado, which when the air comes in here, you introduce your fuel, because this has a direction going into the screen, and then that fuel would then have wrappings of insulating air around it, and because it's pushing the air and the fuel together, then you get enormously high temperatures, a lot higher temperatures than an explosive device, and a lot more concentrated, so therefore you get a better burn and more safer containment of these enormous temperatures that it creates. So the next slide will show a different angle, and you can see that the blades are opposing each other. You've got male and female here. So you've got an intricate web where they're supporting each other mechanically, but also if you look at carefully on this design, from looking at it from underneath, you can see there's 16 yin and yang symbols, so it also creates in its own right sacred geometry, and it's developed from sacred geometry, and each one of these sections is a crescent moon. So, and the next one, so here goes, is what without the table tennis ball there, you can see there's a real phenomenon of the extinguishment of light here. The concept of, even as a static model, it seems to absorb the light or draw the light in rather than out. Anyway, the next slide. So we go back to, again, we move on from the Sanskrit texts in India, we move on to the Greek coin. Obviously, Alexander the Great went over to India and up in northern Pakistan or in Indus Valley. And actually, if you look at when they've had a drought there, and if you look at you can go online and look at the riverbeds, there are actually related structures to these in their culture, which is the lingam, which represents exactly the same creation of a 0 point and the fact that you can drain energy off that. So that's in the Greek civilization, and moving ahead. Then and Zeus holding the Vajra. And here you can see very clearly you have spirals coming out, which is basically
Not just holding the Vajra, but also holding his hand up. I know he's not holding anything in his hand. Maybe something. Actually, maybe something. But the point is, it could be like the totality of what he's doing is even relevant. Maybe not necessarily captured in this statue, although it's possible that like resonance across time brings truth into like the sculptor's actions without even intending it necessarily. So there may be something of this nature. I've certainly seen that kind of thing where there's like one hand up doing one thing and the other hand down doing some other thing, and like some kind of like almost like tapping in energetically to the two planes above and below, being an actual integral part of the actions and motions and like usage of such things.
in ancient culture and in Sumerian culture, you'll see holding a handbag and also a pine cone. Well, if you look carefully at a pine cone, it's actually opposing spirals. You can trace a clockwise and an anti-clockwise spiral. It's a very appropriate, and even the cone shape is like very similar to this. Your cone shape represents the vortex imploding, and sort of demonstrates the Vajra as being an implosive, atomic device, not an explosive device. Yep. So here's another one. The thunderbolt again, the same image. That's 450 BC. It's moving on. So again, this is in stainless steel.
Same thing though.
Yep.
Same thing where, I mean, who knows what actually is necessary, but he's doing stuff that are like this foot is this angle, this foot's this angle, this hand, the fingers are out straight, the thumb is off to the side straight, his elbow's curved, he's facing this way. Who knows what's relevant? He's literally not like actually on the ground and has a space between.
So here's another one. The thunderbolt again, the same image. That's 450 BC. It's moving on.
Okay, I'll be back.
So again,